Bret is also new to the drawing room, and when this came in, Renee was like, "Oh my God, look at this piece! What's happening here?" It's such a great example of really exquisite process-based piece, and his write-up was incredibly thoughtful and reflective. So fascinating. I don't even want to go any deeper. I want you to explain everything. So thank you, Bret.
Thank you. I'm sure these are not my notes. Hello, my name is Bret Arenson. And I want to thank everybody involved in the drawing room and having this really wonderful to be part of this. This, of course, is my piece. And I'm going to talk about my process and how my process itself relates to home. So my art is generated through an automatic movement. It comes from an ecstatic response. And this is a kind of experience that is virtually unrecognized in our culture. So I brought a visual aid and video to show, but it's really working all of a sudden. How do you like that? Try another one. We're just working a second. Here we go. All right, so just put this over here. So this is me working in my studio. So as a brief description, the ecstatic experience for me is a systemic excitation. It affects all aspects of my being, my mind, my body, my movement, my spirit, what have you. And it can lead to a radical alteration of my perception of my surroundings and also in my internal landscape. And it's a dramatic shift away from my usual experience. In my efforts to see and understand what would arise in me and also to be authentic to it, I've discovered that holding a certain kind of focus will elicit this response. And certain things I focus on are places on my body, ideas, thoughts, impressions that arise, and also objects, my movement and interaction with objects. For instance, putting the ink pen into the inkwell is a very strong stimuli for me. For these movements and this sensation. Let's see what I got. Okay, these various stimuli have changed and grown over the years. Some work, some don't. And if I put them together in their culminated use, I can get to a very intense experience. I found very intense experiences. Okay. So one of the most common stimuli for me is looking into my own work. When I'm making it, or even afterwards, like right now. And this in turn compels the movement, and it's sort of like a feedback loop that's created where I look, I respond, I move, I draw, I look, respond, move, and draw. So that's how that works. Okay. Okay, but in this, because the work stimulates my own ecstatic response, it's my goal to make the work as effective as possible. That means when I look at the work, I try to get it as most pronounced as possible for me to have this response. And this is my main criteria for a finished piece. I'm also concerned with some more formal compositional concerns. And sometimes they coincide, but sometimes they don't. But my main impetus is to find that ecstatic response from my work. And in this, I hope that I'm capturing something in the finished piece that others beside myself can see, hopefully, and maybe something that points to something hidden within the viewer. Okay, now the ecstatic movement was always on the drawing board, but eventually I discovered that I could do it away from the board. And I began to do a series of public performances, and the idea of this was to reintroduce this kind of static behavior and experience into the culture that has, at this point, very much forgotten about it. And able to do this, I have to go into what I do and also step away from certain things that would arise, certain attachments and pretensions that would come. And so this kind of requires me to be in a space of extreme vulnerability out in public. And through this process and through stimulating and looking at these various things, I could find a very intense experience. And being in this experience, I would be astounded at the detail of the expanding vista around me. And I also, as much as I was seeing everything around me, I also had the sensation that it was observing me in the same intensity. And I've done these on the street in San Francisco, and I also do some drawings, public performances of drawings and things like that. Now, in the precisions of these moments, I would also sometimes feel a very pronounced sense of placement, that where I was the only place I could ever be. And this felt as a place of home. But also, the intensity of the experience was really hard to maintain. And as soon as I found this experience at home, throughout the whole thing, I still had this compulsion of wanting to go away again. But I still do these performances, nonetheless. I still put out these performances, including one that was called Everybody Coming Home. And in that, I would do my work to find that intense place of home, of placement, of belonging. And then I would incorporate everybody else in my surroundings to that experience. So bringing them along with me in a way. Now, as to the painting, out of the way a little bit. The painting, it's dedicated to my internal guiding presence, who will sometimes come with the impression of blue and bring out in me piercing experiences of gratitude and love. Okay? That's mostly what I have written down. I just want to say that I do have some printouts that I made, and I put them up on the table, so if you want to grab one, you can have one. If somebody wants one right now. Anybody want one? Like, I've got to take it. Well, I got some over there. I don't have anyone to pass this, but there you go. There's not enough for everybody. I didn't know how many there would be, but I brought some of them. Okay. There's a lot more I could say about all this stuff. But if you have any questions? You have a question? Yeah.
Well, thank you for explaining such a complex,
abstract
and words. And
yes.
That was just so profound to listen to.
Oh, thank you.
One thing that I noticed was that you mentioned a lot about intensity,
Right.
intense experiences, and in relation to that, I wanted to hear more about the intensity and what you found to be so intense in your performances, or what was like the most intense performance that you've had?
The most intense performance, okay, so the intensity and this feeling of the experience, it's sort of a searing feeling. And a lot of words I would say to describe the feeling of it when I get into it, they seem sort of unpleasant, but there is some sort of unpleasantness to it. I sort of have a memory of when being in these moments of how I think and act in a more objective way, but it's sort of compromised. And then when I come back to an objective way, I go, in those moments of ecstatic, I go, that doesn't make any sense. It's subjective reality. Just I can't fathom it. But then when I get back to the objective reality, I look to the ecstatic, and I go, what was that? I can't explain it. But the most intense experience, I say, like San Francisco, you go out, try to be that person. I'm the only one that I know about it. I'm that guy. And Market and Powell Street, had a bliss experience. I don't know if you know what bliss experiences are, but bliss experience is just it's a feeling of searing through the body, and you have to cry. And everything is just amazingly beautiful and stunning. And so I'm in Market Street, just tears running down my face, and people just sort of walking by, sort of basically ignoring me. But to me, I'm in the most amazing place. It's like heaven on earth. It's the most amazing place. it's really intense because, like I say, I'm looking at everything. They're all looking at me, or the whole universe is looking back at me. First I'm like, I'm nervous that people are going to think I'm weird, but after I get rid of that, it's like, oh my God, the universe is going to look at me. And that's what really gets me nervous. But interesting thing about it is I'm full of awe, but when I went into the awe, I kind of lost the experience. So I had to go, no, I have to just keep concentrating on what I'm seeing, what I'm experiencing, rather than feeling the awe of it. And it's sort of the same thing with the love and the gratitude. Like, yes, it's there, but it's signposts, but it's showing me I'm in the right direction, but I can't go into it. And I never heard anybody say, like, don't go into your awe. Like I say, don't go into your fear, right? But this is a case of like, oh, going into my awe will distract me from what I'm looking at. Is that a good answer? Okay, thank you.
Bret, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.